And we're breaking down the Eagles' 20-16 win against the lowly Cleveland Browns. We'll get into it, what we liked, what we didn't like, right after this.
He looks right, he fires, and it's intercepted! It's intercepted! It is intercepted by the Eagles! What a play! Snap. He's back, he's going to run. He's in! Touchdown! Jalen Hurts! 20. Westbrook takes it. Looks for running back. Up to the 25, the 30, to the 35, 40, 45 midfield, 45, 40, 45, 40. Brian Westbrook! He's going! He's going! Touchdown! 15-10! The Eagles win! The Eagles win! The Eagles win!
It's all birds, all the time.
And the Eagles win indeed. Eagles get the W at home against the Cleveland Browns after the bye. A lot to get into tonight, guys. Of course, joined as always by Chip, and we got special guest Mike joining us again, becoming a recurring guest.
Welcome.
Good thing. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about, fellas. The Eagles, may not have been the victory that you wanted to see, but they are 3-2. They did improve to 3-2 on the season with this win. There was some positives. I will absolutely say that. There was some negatives and some stuff that we got to get into. But how are we feeling tonight, fellas, with Eagles getting this win?
I mean, they did the job. A win is a win.
And you said it was a must-win, so they did do what you had.
I did say it was a must-win. I mean, it was absolutely a must-win. It was a win devoid of style points, which when you play a bad football team, you're supposed to have some style points. But if you ask Nick Sirianni, it's tough to win in the NFL, which gives him reason to yell at the fans when the game was solidified. It's just – listen, they won the game. They should have won bigger. There's definitely some things we're going to talk about that were good, that were bad, but they won the game.
Nakobe Dean is a smaller Dahani Jones.
I was waiting for the Nakobe thing. I was texting you back and forth about that, but
here's the problem. Howie's misses on linebackers is extensive. One is no longer on the team this season, which I think Devin White in this game would have been better than Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean led the team in tackles with 12. That is combined solo and assisted tackles, whatever. He just always seems to be out of position. He just isn't big enough. He isn't strong enough to be an every down linebacker in this league. What we need, and look, Zach Bond has been fantastic. Zach Bond, Johnny, I remember you and I talked about him when they signed. Yeah, okay, whatever. He's been the best offseason signing linebacker-wise for them.
He was not supposed to be what he has become. He gave every single bit of I'm going to be a special team stud vibe when we signed him. And
that's what he played mostly, special teams.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But he has been the best linebacker, hands down, bar none, no question.
But, even though I'm out here saying, hey, Nakobe Dean's too small, I think it's time to see Trotter get some snaps. He just is, to me, from what I've seen, is a better tackler than Nakobe Dean. And I like Nakobe Dean. I've met Nakobe Dean a couple years ago at the charity softball game at Coca-Cola Park. He's a really nice guy. Nice young guy, but the fact of the matter is, I think they could do better. They need to draft a good linebacker. And look, that is the glaring hole in this team is linebacker. We have a really good secondary. Cooper, DeJean, however you say it. I was impressed with that kid today. And Quinyon Mitchell, man, he was pissed at CJ Gardner-Johnson. Rightfully so. Was that his first career pick?
Well, to be fair, I was pretty pissed at CJ Gardner-Johnson too. And not just because of that interception, but because there was the one play, and I want to say it was in the second half, where CJ Gardner-Johnson decided to be completely flat-footed on a tackle.
He did make a very, very good tackle then later in the so he had his moments. He did have his moments, but I can't wait to see Sidney Brown come back just because he was playing so well before he got injured. And I know he struggled at times last year, but him being able to be out there on the field, he could do a whole bunch of different things for you. But he is a big hitter. He was playing so much better before he got injured last year. So I'm really, waiting for him. But let's go to some positives on the offensive side of the ball. And Jalen Hurts gets his two weapons back. He gets A.J. Brown and gets Devontae Smith back. Both of them had touchdowns. A.J. Brown you could see what was missing with you throw the ball up to him. And a couple of those passes were well placed absolutely. But the strength that AJ Brown has is just, it's undeniable. It's what it is, and that's what his strength is. And they mentioned that on the broadcast, that they asked Jim Schwartz, what's AJ Brown's strength is his strength, and it showed. He had over 116. He had 116 yards on 6 receptions and a touchdown. Devontae had that nice crosser, which I loved, because I don't know who, I think it was Dotson. It was one of the guys, either Dotson or one of the tight ends. It was an 80. I didn't see who it was, but got in front of the defender, but then moved his way, so he didn't contact him or anything like that. But he almost put a little bit of a pick there. Devontae comes across, and there's nobody, and he scores.
Yep.
Like, I need to see more of that.
Yeah.
But it was great to see those guys back.
See more of Kellen Moore actually doing things. We're never gonna know how much is Nick Sirianni versus how much is Kellen Moore. But I'm a firm believer in, over this offseason, they were told, or not over the offseason, over the bye week, they were told, Nick, back off. Let Kellen Moore run what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And,
I have to believe that.
Yeah, as they should. Kellen Moore was brought in for a reason, to make up for all the deficiencies that Nick Sirianni has as an offensive mind. I think the biggest takeaway from this game, though, aside from the win, and we talked pre-show, Deshaun Watson is terrible, shouldn't be playing professional football. Jalen Hurts did not turn the ball over, and he has been having an issue with that lately. For the record, he started 0-5. They weren't. But the thing is, that 0-5, he wasn't putting the ball in harm's way. The biggest play of the game to me was a non-play. The Cam Jurgens snap that he went back and got, and was able to get out of the pocket and throw away, so it wasn't grounded, to me shows a quarterback that is maturing, shows a quarterback that, and we've talked about this, Johnny, you and I, about he was trying to play hero ball too much. He didn't try to play hero ball. He kept the drive alive for another play. And to me, that is huge.
Yeah.
That shows maturity, that shows growth. No turnovers. I thought Jalen, I'm looking at the box score now, he looked pretty good running the ball today too. He tucked it a couple times. I thought he looked good. He had looked slow, sluggish up until this point. I thought he looked good. I didn't really see many bad passes from him. Good coverage on the Browns, from the Browns defensive backs for a lot of the game, especially on AJ Brown. But AJ Brown is going to win those passes most of the time. And welcome back, AJ Brown. Also, hopefully Dallas Goedert's not out too long, but Greg Calcaterra with that 34-yard
stepped up.
Yeah. And you know what? I had concerns about Calcaterra. I liked him when I scouted him coming out of SMU. But as a backup and doing what he had to do today, 4 catches, 67 yards, keeping the things moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm okay with him in that role.
Yeah, one of the things that bothered me a lot was the way that they did not utilize Saquon Barkley in the first half.
Yes.
Especially when, as you mentioned, Mike, Jalen started out 0 for 5, and there was, 1 or 2 drives where they didn't even let Saquon touch the ball. Like, you have got this potent weapon. Let him get his touches. Let him get going. Open things up for your team.
Well, he did have a touch towards the end of the half, and decided to run out of bounds and not get the first down, got no gain on a catch.
Yeah.
He was, a lack of focus there, because you have green grass in front of you. You could have got at least 5, 6, 7 yards. You still had 3 timeouts. So there was, and then of course you had the sack. And then of course after that was the block and then return. So, you look at this game 20-16, but again, 7 of those points, or 6 of those points, 7 of those points.
Yeah.
The return, the game could have been a lot, because then at the end of the game, they get that 40-yard catch by AJ Brown, and then kneel the ball with like 1:30 left or whatever.
Right.
And you just kneel it, and you could have scored there if you really wanted to tack it on. But of course, you're not going to do that, only up by 4 when the game,
because you never know what could happen.
Exactly. So, you have that, and there's things that need to work on. The run game was just not there today, and the Browns did a really great job. And you look at their team, they're 1-5, but if you look at their defense, they've got some really good players on the defensive side of the ball. Denzel Ward, Joker, you have Myles Garrett, and even their defensive tackle, they got Hurst and their 2nd round pick, Michael Hall Jr., playing Shelby Harris. They have really good Darius Smith. They got awesome players on the defensive side of the ball. It's just their offense can't do anything, so the defense is always on the field. So, yeah, could the Eagles have scored more points? Absolutely. Should they have scored more points? Probably. But
Yeah, but
You know, they just have
for
to
me,
take.
Johnny, it's not even about the points,
Well, you
right?
wanted them
And
to win. That's all you said was a win. So
I did. That was a must-win game. But what I said is when you play a bad team, you can add on style points. So I think about
but this isn't
the
college football. You're not going to move up in the rankings.
but you can dominate a team.
Same.
You can dominate a team. So, like, I think about the way that our defense played in the first half, which was destructive, right? The guys were getting home. There was some pass split. I mean, we still didn't get any turnovers, so we technically lost the turnover battle again, because the block field goal does count as a turnover, I believe. But again, then the second half rolls around. Now, mind you, the Browns are using a third string center at this point. And what do we decide to do? We decide to play 10, 15 yards off the ball. And Deshaun Watson starts the second half 10 for 10, and he's just picking people up. I don't understand this defensive strategy. It doesn't work. It does not work to give wide receivers. And listen, Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper are no slouches. You know, David Njoku is no slouch. Deshaun Watson can throw a ball to these guys if he's not getting pressured. Yes, they're on their backup running backs, but you had an opportunity to grind this team into the ground, and you took your foot off their neck again.
Yeah, they had opportunities to score more points though, too. You know, it's the Browns. Yes, I think Watson was 11 for 12 in the second half but he still threw for under 200 yards. They didn't score more than 20 points. They're not a good football team. And my only concern is the inside zone was just gashing the Eagles. And it's just, and at times you see the defensive line shift right before the snap, and then they're shifting themselves out of position. And it's just like, I don't know what that's supposed to do. I think a big issue too, and I think the interior defensive line is kind of undersized. And I think the bigger problem is behind them, you have a guy in Nakobe Dean who's only 5'11, 5'10, 218, 17 pounds. So, you know, it's concerning when you take a look at him get moved. And then it's not even getting when he's has the eye on the ball carrier and goes, he takes a bad angle.
Right.
He jumps when Deshaun Watson is, you know, pump faking, and he's already over the line of scrimmage basically, and he's jumping up and down. And it's just, he's just not playing good football. And
yeah, and again, it's, you know, the middle of our defensive line is great, but once again, you know, you got Bryce Huff with 1 tackle and a half sack. Neat. You've got.
Listen, Bryce Huff did play pretty well. He had a couple nice pressures.
He played better, nice sure. Where's Josh Sweat? Where's Josh Sweat?
He had a sack. He had a sack.
He did. But I'm just like, this is a team that we should have annihilated. Not even talking about the score. It should have been a game that was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Listen, it's, you know, you have some bright spots, and of course, like we talked about, and then you look at there's stuff to work on. And of course, you know, you're always gonna have that. There's gonna be stuff that you're gonna need to get better at, gonna work on, you know, the pre-snap penalties, you know, kind of shooting yourself in the foot. That doesn't always help you. But, you know, I think some of the stuff coming out of this game, you know, of the miscues and not blowing them out like you would have wanted to see them do. I think one thing that's concerning are the injuries, and what do these injuries hold in terms of long-term effects?
The Mailata injury is very concerning.
The Mailata said it was a hamstring, but then after the game,
he was on crutches after the game.
And his crutches, and he's very, very slow. Is it a torn hamstring? Is it? Well, of course, we'll know and see, because then you got to put Fred Johnson out there at left tackle, which I guess left tackle is his more strong point than right tackle, because he's only played left and they moved him to right. So listen, it's still a big step down. But
I think you also saw at that point, you saw even more that the running game wasn't going to work. Like the running game has to be effective for the Eagles to do good things against good teams.
Well, you know, I know that Statland doesn't like to weaken 2 positions, but can we put Lane at left and then
no
Becton or put Becton over there, bring Steen in, or we do have Jack Driscoll is available.
We got Jack Driscoll. We've got Kennard.
Jack Driscoll was the backup center, by the way.
Was he really?
Yes. That's why Nick Gates was inactive. He was the backup center, which is interesting. And then, of course, we know about the Dallas Goedert. How bad's that going to be? How long is he going to be out?
Darius Slay.
And Darius Slay knee, and he looked walking pretty gingerly. But I know they had Isaiah Rodgers and they had Keely Ringo out there.
Rodgers, I believe, hurt his hand again, though.
Yeah, but then he
came right back in.
He did take a kickoff then after they kicked the field goal, but it's a shuffling, and hopefully the defense is going to start to find their groove a little bit. They got some sacks and they're struggling with
turnovers.
that.
Yeah, they've got to get some turnovers.
They do. Listen, the Quignon drop that we talked about, the bang bang type of play, that unfortunately that type of stuff does happen. They didn't get that pick that turned into a field goal by the Browns.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the blocked field goal that went for the touchdown. The miscues seem to happen to the Eagles more than the others. Like, it has to be flipped. And we've been talking about this. We mention it time and time again. They need to be the ones causing some turnovers. We need to see some turnovers. We need some opportunities, extra opportunities for the offense to get back on the field when the defense stops them. Sacked fumble, an interception. Like, we haven't seen that.
Like, I look at what the Eagles put on film today against the Cleveland Browns, who, in my opinion, are the worst team in football.
Agreed.
And then I looked at where I thought this team was, which was a contender in the NFC for the NFC title. I saw that effort by the Detroit Lions today. The Detroit Lions today took a team in the Dallas Cowboys, which are not a good team. The Dallas Cowboys are not a good team. And they continued to pummel and pressure and get turnovers and pressure. And they did all the things right. So at what point do the Philadelphia Eagles go, let's stop playing to the lowest common denominator. Let's stop playing to the low bar of our opponents and just beat the hell out of somebody?
Yeah. Hopefully we start seeing it, because what's going to happen is
this isn't sustainable. This is not sustainable. Not. We saw that last year. This is not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable. And I think what you're going to have to see too is, if this doesn't turn around and you keep winning games like this, you're going to have, if you make the playoffs, you're going to have an early playoff exit, and you're going to have a new head coach, because that's on the cusp of what is going to happen. Because when you take a look at when you take a look at all of the candidates that are going to be out there, and you're not going to run it back with Sirianni, because
you're just not.
Because there was something in the press conference talked about the 3rd and 1 play that Jalen got sacked. He called that play. And then apparently there was a play on
calling plays.
Well, there was a play on defense where he called. Like, what are we doing?
Why?
It's just so frustrating. And then after the game,
you heard in the first half, like, the fans raining down the boos and fire Nick Chance. And again, that's not what I want to be known for. But at the same time, he's not doing anything. And then I'll be honest, what really pissed me off today is you barely squeak by the Cleveland Browns.
And you
have the audacity.
John with the fans.
You have the audacity to yell at the home crowd.
I hate it.
Like, dude, who are you?
I don't know.
They are not winning games because of him. They are winning games in spite of him.
Well, could he potentially be more energetic and enthusiastic Richie Kotite? Look.
Why are you like this?
I'm just saying, take a look at Rich Kotite's career with the Eagles. Started off, they're winning games. They didn't make I think he was in their 1991. They, didn't make the playoffs, but they were 11-5 with one of the best defenses of all time. And 92, they make the playoffs. They lose to the Cowboys in the divisional, but they have another winning record. 93, I believe 93 is when they started 4-0, and then they wind up finishing 8-8. 94, they start off, I think they started like 8-2, and then they lost 6 straight and finished 8-8, and then he was let go. I'm just saying the similarities are kind of there when you look at underachieving with a talented roster.
Yeah, and look, I'm in the background. I'm watching this game between our next two opponents, which of course are the Giants and the Bengals. This is not a good football game that we are watching. These are two bad teams slugging it out in bad football land. But you should beat the hell out of the Giants. You should beat the hell out of the Giants. The Bengals worry me because they have multiple weapons and we don't have the ability to cover them.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, if given time, is going to pick this team apart. What's the bigger concern for me is if Daniel Jones ends up looking like Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be
we have learned nothing. We have learned nothing about this team other than they play to their lowest common denominator.
Listen, they have the Giants up next, Cincinnati. Then they have Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I think
that's got to be a win.
Oh.
I'm just saying these are bad teams that are coming up before you go and you play in Dallas. Who knows which team of that is going to show up? So the way the schedule lines up, it lines up perfectly for the Eagles to get wins. They just have to get the wins, and they have to. And before we wrap it up here, I want to give Brandon Graham 200th game a shout out there, because 200 games. That's why I wore this, the BG from Philly Sports Shirts. But 200 games as a Philadelphia Eagle. No Eagle has reached 200 games in the franchise history. A record that, I'm not sure is going to be broken when the way you look at how, players move and players go, here and there, and free agency and trades and all that kind of stuff that happens. He's been on the team for 15 seasons, and he's still playing at a pretty good level for his age. Had a really nice 3rd-and-1 stop, diagnosed that screen and the handoff to Cedric Tillman and got him a TFL. So he had a good game. He still shows out, puts in maximum effort. So again, BG is one of our favorites. So always give him the props on that, and always loved watching him play. But listen, gents, Eagles are 3-2. We have a matchup preview on Wednesday night against the New York Giants, and it's gonna be a tough game because listen, you're playing the division, so we're gonna break that down. Potentially have a guest on for that. Trying to work out a couple things with that, but we'll get somebody on potentially for that. Also, we will have Mike Bauer on the Wednesday report as well on the Inside Swoop edition to break down that game. So it'll be a fun time. We'll get into it. We'll get all the news with the injuries hopefully by Tuesday, so we'll have them for Wednesday, so we'll know exactly what's going on there. But hey,
I won't be at a random hidden location again.
You won't have to drop your pin on where you're located just in case, you go out. But
that was really funny though.
Listen, Chip's been a number of a number of different locations. Some he's had to have his camera on, some he's had to have it off, but he's been everywhere, and everywhere
I am the enigma.
That is for sure, Chip.
That is for sure. That is for sure, Charles. Charles not in charge.
Charles is just here so he doesn't get fined.
But so that finishes it off for here. Listen, Eagles are 3-2.
They got the win. They got the win.
That's fine.
We'll take it.
On to bigger and better things. Hopefully a win streak. But yeah. So
if we win 2 in a row, that's called a winning streak.
That is very true. That is so true. But thanks for everyone for tuning in, for chatting, your comments. Make sure you go and like the page, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, the Twitter account, X account, but also follow the YouTube channel at AATBirds1. You could find it on YouTube. Just started that new page up. I broke off from the AAT Sports Network. I just want strictly Eagles related content on this YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribing. We absolutely appreciate it. But with that, as we always do, go Birds.
Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.